One club, two managers, and a boatload of trophies. But who had the better team at Celtic? Welcome back, guys, to Fog Football. We're here to find out which Celtic team was better, which Celtic team was superior after ending that one season of Rangers dominance. Who's went on to have the better team? Is it Ange Postecoglou from the 21-22 to 22-23 season? Or is it Brendan Rodgers from the 23-24 season to the current 24-25 season? Now, we don't know if Brendan Rodgers will add a Scottish Cup to his trophy collection this year, but he probably will. And if he does, then that would match the 5 trophies that Ange won in his 2 years. So Rodgers is one Scottish Cup away from equaling Ange Postecoglou's trophy record. So that would kind of suggest that maybe both of these teams are similar.
So 10 trophies out of a possible 12 when you combine both of them. If Rodgers wins the Scottish Cup, alright. A lot of votes.
Do you not think it's mental, by the way, before we carry on here, that a lot of Celtic fans aren't happy with that return? And that's what happens when you do 4 quadruple trebles in a row. We're getting to the point now where people just take trebles for granted, even though they should be extremely difficult to win.
No, I know.
And they kind of are.
No, of course they are.
But see, when Celtic win 4 trebles in a row, then I guess it's only natural to be like, well, that's easy.
Well, Super Neil Critchley, hopefully he stops them, but I mean, what I would say about Ange, right, and I get it, it's not who's the better manager, it's simply who's the better Celtic team, right? Ange took Celtic from being fucking nowhere, completely ripped up the script, overtook Rangers, wild playing, fantastic football, right? And if we're being honest, he never looked back once he overtook Rangers. See, when Rodgers came in, everyone was complaining about how bad Celtic were. They were scraping past games. I remember they drew 0-0 with St Johnstone in the early days, and the 23-24 campaign. They lost against Hearts and Kelly, a lot of stagnant football. And yeah, you know what? Pre-season, this season, Celtic were brilliant. And I think right up until pretty much the start of the new year, I think Celtic could argue they were as good as Ange's teams. But I think since this turn of 2025, I think this has been the worst period for Celtic. Maybe apart from like the first couple of months under Ange, but that's understandable because it was a lot of new parts. And, you know, the guy's just in the door.
Yeah, I think that's another thing. Ange, basically, when he came in, he had an entire rebuild to do. And he pretty much had to change the Celtic team up from start to finish, minus a few players. Rodgers came in and took over an Ange Postecoglou team that was already really good, and all Rodgers had to do was basically add to it.
Yeah, let's say Rodgers, right, is the manager in 2020.
I don't think Celtic win the title that season.
I just don't think Rodgers would have did what Ange went into a completely different market and signed, you know, the likes of Kyogo, Jota, Hatate, Maida. I think Carter Vickers is kind of the signing that Rodgers could have made, you know, Premier League. But that's what Rodgers does, you know. It wouldn't have been
Ange Postecoglou wasn't given the money that Rodgers would have needed, I think, to win the title in 2021. Because Rodgers would have been looking at, like you said, down in England, and those players cost more. Ange was able to go to the Asian market and bring like Hatate in, Kyogo in, Maida in. And I just think that Ange got better value for his money with his players than Rodgers has. I mean, we've already seen what Celtic, just this season alone, Celtic have spent, 26 million on Engels, Ida and Trusty?
Yep.
And are they much better? I know there's a lot of Celtic fans I hear on scoreboard say that they want to start Luke McCowan over Engels.
Yeah. But the question is, what team was better, right? I'm going to go with the Ange team. Most times Rangers played Celtic under Ange and they turned up. It was an absolute scudding. Under Rodgers in these last couple of years, I mean, yeah, 23-24, Celtic owned Rangers, but the games were always close. And then this year, Rangers have beat them twice. And the cup final was close. So, the morale victories and all that stuff of this world. But yeah, I just think when Ange's teams got going, they were unstoppable.
Yeah, I think Ange I agree with that. I also think Ange's football was better to watch.
Yeah.
I just preferred watching Ange's teams. So I agree. 72% also agree. So 663 votes, 72% are going with Ange Postecoglou. I mean, I guess Rodgers had a better European campaign, but Ange didn't get to experience the new Champions League format, so yeah, I guess we'll never really know how Ange would have done in that. Plus, he did get to the knockout stages of the Europa League, something that even before then Celtic weren't known for.
Was it the Conference League?
Well, conference? No, it was the Europa League, I think.
No, it was a Conference League against Bodo Glimt, because everyone was ripping the piss out of them, saying how they got knocked out of 3 competitions in 1 year.
Either way, they got out the group stages, which is something that didn't happen before that. You know, we weren't... Here, can you remember... How many knockout games have Celtic played in Europe?
Not a lot.
I know they had this playoff one this year.
No,
but at least Ange Postecoglou got them out of a group.
No.
Albeit if it was technically going down to a lesser competition. Anyway, comments time. Mountain Man says both average managers who got success in a shit league. I don't think they are average. I mean, listen, Brendan Rodgers, say what you want about the guy, but he was one Stevie Gerrard slip away from winning the title with Liverpool. And he done a decent job at Leicester. I don't care if he didn't win the league with Leicester. I mean, for me, Brendan Rodgers, he finished 5th in back-to-back seasons.
Yeah. Won the FA Cup.
That's good.
No, it is good. And you know what?
That Leicester, one of those teams that
Rodgers has done better than Ange down south, but we're still putting the Ange team above him up here. That's what matters. I mean, we can say they're both shite in a shite league, but no, but that's where I will absolutely give Ange the benefit of the doubt over Rodgers. Rodgers' first spell, I mean, they're fucking that's where it's like, well, how could you mess it up, really? And then his second spell, he came in when Ange put them on top. With Ange, he rebuilt Celtic, as we've touched upon, and took them back in front of the Rangers. I just don't think Rodgers had that in him. I'm not saying he couldn't and never have done it, but I don't think he would have.
I know I predicted them to win. I guaranteed Celtic would win the league after the second league game of the season. But everyone else was like, not a chance.
Yep.
Celtic fans were saying there was no way. They just wanted to be competitive and be close to Rangers and maybe win a cup. Celtic fans didn't think they had a chance to win the league that season. Even Ryan 118, I don't believe, predicted Celtic to win the league.
Yes, there you go.
Pretty sure he went with Rangers that season, so... it was a great job for Ange Postecoglou. Mills says, 2 bang average teams winning in a very poor league. That's why they're so bad in Europe. 22 years since winning a knockout tie. Whenever they get to reach a knockout tie, that is... I mean, I don't really recall Celtic in many knockout ties to win.
No. I think they got beat by Senate about 8 years ago, didn't they?
Can't remember, but yeah. You know what? And it's going to be even more difficult now to get into with the fact you don't drop into competition. But, I mean, I think Brendan Rodgers will be looking forward to next year's Champions League. I still think they should have did better this year. And you could argue that they were maybe, 1 win away from potentially going straight through.
Yeah.
Or even if they didn't go straight through, 1 win could have got them an easier tie than Bayern Munich. But it's a bit lucky. I mean, it's random. Because
no, but someone commented my channel earlier saying about, why are these same people celebrating this draw when they were giving it to Celtic about drawing against Atalanta and Bayern, right? Right, numerous things. I don't think that the Celtic draw against Atalanta was bad. I thought that was a pretty good result. The draw against Bayern on paper is fantastic. Allianz Arena, it's a draw. But you concede it last minute to get knocked out. You can't really view it as a great result. Rangers' draw against...
If that was the first leg, you'd be like, fucking brilliant.
Yeah, but you've got to look... It's like Rangers' draw against Bilbao for me, out the three. I'm going to say it is the best result. Is it on paper? No. But games aren't played on paper, they're played on a pitch. See the last 90-odd minutes with 10 men and keep the tie alive. Like, I thought we were going to be able to 6-0.
Yep, looked that way, didn't it? James Fulton says, what was the game plan at Dortmund? Don't know. What was the game plan?
7-1.
20 replies.
Let's not open that.
No. Mark Baston says, easily Ange, football was way better, we never stop. I think the football was better.
Just who we are, mate.
DMCG says, Ange team plays football the Glasgow Celtic way, simple as that. Barcelona and Real Madrid, who the fuck are you trying to kid? Attack, attack, attack. Brendan, dominant, a clever tactician sometimes, but the football is repetition, boringness, exciting football wins all day long. Yeah, I think when it comes to football, Ange played a lot more.
Every day of the week.
It's just more fluent and it was much better to watch. James
No, I agree. Like the day when Celtic won 5-1, but they were 4-0 up after 29 minutes. I think with an Ange team, they would have went for the fucking jugular.
Agreed. James, both teams are shite, to be honest. Just look good because Rangers are poor too. I don't think they're shite.
But that's where I'm going to disagree, right? Why are we pretending that Rangers in the 21-22 team was pish? Got to the Europa League final.
No, it was good. It was just that Celtic team under Ange did kick on, and I mean, no one could have predicted. Well, I did, but no one else could have predicted that they would be that good.
Yeah, no, but why are we pretending that Rangers team a couple of months after winning 55 was shite? Yeah, they didn't have the greatest transfer window of all time, but look at the team. McGregor, Bassey, Goldson, Tav, when they were much better, by the way. You know what I mean? Like Hollander, Aribo, Kamara, Davis, Morelos, Kent, Aribo, Arfield, etc. You know, we fucking had the likes of Diallo and Ramsey on loan. And we can say what we want about the loan deals, like, because they were shite and they didn't end up being good, but how can we sit here and pretend that, like, that team was pish?
Yeah, no, it wasn't.
Defoe? Roof? Good
players. Chris Bellman, who cares? I actually don't see the point of comments like that. If you don't care, then move on, you know. And leave the comments for people that do care. Tommy's Celtic Talk says, I think Rodgers based on having more success in Europe. Ange was more exciting, but away from home to Atlanta and Bayern, we had a genuine game plan. I mean, they did, but I mean, does that mean that Rodgers was better just because he had two big European games where he got results?
Depends how you measure your success.
Yeah. I think some people would still argue to this day Celtic's opening 45 minutes against Real Madrid where they won the first half trophy was a better performance.
What a trophy that was. It's actually embarrassing how they bang on about that.
No, but that was a good 45 minutes.
It was, but what were the other 45?
No, the second 45 wasn't that great, but here, sometimes you can you'll settle for 1.5. Baldy Cox says, in superior in what way? Both failed miserably in Europe as they've always done. I feel like Rangers fans are bitter when it comes to this. I mean, you can say Celtic have failed in Europe, which they have, but they've fucking dominated domestically.
Yeah. The measuring stick ain't Europe.
No, Europe's like the dessert. The main course is the league.
No, if Rangers were winning Europa League like every 4 years, then I'd be like, well, you know what? That's fucking great. But we're not. You know what I mean? As much as I love Europe, right? And that Bilbao game was great.
But I'll put it this way, right?
The other wins have been great. I'd trade it all in.
Yeah, hold on. Let's say
trophies.
See, in the last 20 years, Rangers have made 2 Europa League finals. Celtic have made none. Would you trade trophy hauls with Celtic over the last 2 seasons, or the last 2 decades? But no, you have no European finals, and Celtic have 2.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Even if you say, right, it would be hard even not to trade it, even if it was 2 Europa League victories. Because it's not the Champions League. It's the Europa League.
It's the B competition. And
you know, like, we're not talking about a Celtic trophy haul like 15. Over 20 years, like 15 trophies. We are talking about, like, what, 50?
Can't be far. Well, maybe not over 15 like years, because that would be... It'd be close to, I'd say about 40.
I think it's like 38 or something.
So it's not far off it. Gadia said both class 1-2-1 incoming. 1-2-1 what? Oh, is it not on 120? Oh, wait, 2. I forgot. This guy's counting the cup as well. And the league that's not won yet, mathematically, but probably will be.
By the time this gets uploaded, to be honest.
Alex, here, does that make the Aberdeen Rangers game more important? Because people were talking about the fact that Barry Ferguson will probably not field the strongest team because they'll have the Bilbao game in mind. Do you think the fact now that if Rangers lose, Celtic win the title, will that affect the Rangers lineup?
It might, but I wouldn't let it affect it, man. The league's done. Fucking worry about Thursday.
The way I see it is, if someone says to you, Rangers will lose at Pittodrie and give Celtic league, but you'll beat Bilbao and go through, you'd take that all day long, wouldn't you?
Fucking every day of the week, because the league's gone anyway.
Yeah. So, I mean, if I was Barry Ferguson, I wouldn't have it. I would just... I'm not saying don't win the Aberdeen game, but I would be resting the key players, so... Alright. Alex says, both mediocre by European standards. Daniel Jaffrey says, for me, Brendan Rodgers' team, because they were got in Europe, but domestically, Ange's team all day, so overall, I'll go BR, Big Brendan Rodgers. I mean, I can see why, but I don't know. I prefer Ange. Jim Brown, Rodgers is a narcissistic traitor who should never have been allowed back. Interesting.
Damn.
Ital Monden Enterprise says, both suck ass in Europe, even this squad only got past the group as we played 3 of the worst teams in Europe to date. Only the men across the city seem to do well in Europe with impartial refs. Now, that's an interesting comment. I do remember reading this. Just above average says, why would you even LARP as a Celtic fan? That's actually wild, man. What's this wee shit? You're no Tick fan. James, he says, mate, I'm a Rangers fan, but you're definitely no a Celtic fan.
Yeah.
Could this not just be a guy that is being honest? Because they did play 3 of the worst teams in Europe to date. But I do think with the last comment, especially about impartial refs, seeming to benefit Rangers, this would tell me this is a Rangers fan pretending to be a Celtic fan. But I actually do agree with the assessment that they played 3 of the worst teams in Europe to date, because I think when you looked after match day 6, the 3 teams that Celtic had beat were the bottom 3 teams in the group.
Yeah.
They were 34, 35th and 36th. So that's a fact, that's factual.
It's the last line though.
Aye.
I would never...
Yeah, gives it away.
When would... Yeah, I don't even know where to go.
See if he took out the impartial... See if he just said, only the men across the city seem to do well in Europe, and left it at that.
Aye.
I could, but it's the fact that he's added in impartial refs.
Aye, that's...
You're blowing your cover, mate.
Aye, the cover's at the window.
You agree, yeah?
Aye.
Aye. And Caleb says, got to be this season's
Caleb,
one.
mate.
What?
Caleb.
Oh, fuck, maybe he pronounces it Caleb, I don't know.
The fucking... Oh, Callum.
The question was, which Celtic team is superior? So I chose this season's one. Well, it was a collective of 2 seasons, I guess. But
Brendan Rodgers.
there you go, guys. Some people going with Brendan, some people going with Ange. We're both going with Ange. Could Ange be back at Celtic? I mean, maybe one day. Could Ange be playing Rangers in a few months' time? Europa League final, maybe.
Oh,
Be great, wouldn't it? What would you rather?
I think Rangers would be favourite because Tottenham just can't fucking get the job done.
What would you rather, Rangers versus Spurs in the final or a rematch against Frankfurt? Because that could be the semi-final.
I'd rather Spurs because they don't have what it takes to win a trophy. Not that Rangers really do.
So you don't really care about revenge against Frankfurt means nothing.
But then what if they win?
Then you're 0-2.
Like Frankfurt know how to beat a Rangers team in a European final. Tottenham don't know how to win. Period.
And that's where we're going to end it, guys. That's it. Till next time. Peace.